The Blessed Dark is a card game for 2 to 4 players where you play as cultists vying for the favor of the Ancient Ones. By gathering blood, completing rituals, casting spells, and summoning demons, you will sow the seeds of darkness in a bid to become the Chosen. The goal of the Blessed Dark is to be the cultist with the most favor by the time the last card is drawn from the spell deck. Setup only takes a quick second, so we're going to just dive right in. The first thing you should do is find a card labeled the Dark One and remove it from the deck. This is a special demon that can be summoned or stolen by any player who rolls 3 of a kind and plays all of their blood. Set the special card aside in view of everyone, then shuffle the remaining spell cards, set the deck aside, and leave room for a discard pile. Now deal 3 cards to each player. All players will now look at their hand and choose 1 spell card to immediately play face up in their grimoire before the game starts. Also, give each player 2 blood tokens and set the remaining blood tokens aside to form the blood pool. Then, set the 3 ritual dice aside, choose a starting player, and you're pretty much ready to go. The first player will take their turn and then play continues clockwise. In the Blessed Dark, turns are generally pretty straightforward and they move very quickly. On your turn, you can choose to do any one of the following 5 actions. You can draw a spell card and add it to your hand, keeping in mind that there's a 5 card hand limit. You can draw 2 blood tokens from the blood pool if any blood is available. You can choose a card from your hand to add it to your grimoire by placing it on the table in front of you. You can spend a turn to refresh all of their exhausted spells by turning them back to their original vertical orientation. And then the final possible action you can take during your turn is conduct a ritual, by rolling the 3 ritual dice up to 3 attempts and casting a legal spell of your choice from your grimoire based on the roll results. And that's pretty much it. Those 5 actions are the core of the game. Now I'm going to briefly walk you through the other main mechanics that add depth and strategy to the simple gameplay. As rounds progress, you'll begin placing more and more spells in your grimoire. In order to cast any of these spells, though, you'll first need to conduct a ritual. This entails rolling the 3 ritual dice and then determining if the results allow you to successfully cast any of the spells that you have already placed in your grimoire. So the more spell cards you place over time, the more options you will potentially have each time you conduct a ritual. So to actually conduct a ritual, you're going to roll the 3 dice and cast any single spell you're able to based on the roll, by assigning dice to the spell and paying the blood cost if applicable. Dice should only be assigned when you have met the criteria to complete a spell. If you cannot or choose not to cast a spell on the first roll attempt, you may choose to re-roll any of the dice or all of the dice up to twice per ritual, so you have a total of 3 roll attempts during a ritual. Only 1 spell can be triggered during a ritual, so once you do cast a spell, you forfeit any further rolls that turn. If you're unable to cast any spells, or you choose not to trigger any spells after 3 roll attempts, the ritual fails, your turn ends, and play continues. But to give you a little more control over your casting abilities, rituals also have a blood modifier mechanic. You may spend extra blood to increase or decrease the value of a dice by 1 point for each blood you spend. More than 1 blood can be spent in this way, and more than 1 dice can be influenced in this manner per ritual. But keep in mind though that many spells also require blood as part of their casting costs. So you want to make sure that you have enough blood to actually complete the spell you want to trigger in addition to any modifiers you're going to use by spending blood up or down to influence dice. Spells in the Blessed Dark do a variety of things, including summoning demons, banishing opponents' demons, swapping cards with your opponents, destroying cards, gaining extra blood, and a lot more. When you do cast a spell during a successful ritual, you must pay any blood requirements, resolve any effects, and then exhaust the spell by turning the card sideways. Exhausted spells may not be cast again until a player spends a whole turn to refresh their spells. And when you're refreshing your spells, turn all of your exhausted spell cards, aside from any summoned demons, back to their original vertical orientation. There is one exception though. Any card that has the skull icon instead of the exhaust symbol goes directly to the graveyard or discard pile once it's cast and resolved. Demons are the primary way to gain favor in the Blessed Dark, and they're summoned by completing lesser and greater demon summoning spells. Once summoned by a successful ritual, demon spells remain exhausted for the rest of the game unless they are banished. They're no longer considered spells once they've actually been summoned. When you summon a demon, exhaust it and set it aside next to your grimoire to indicate that it has actually been summoned. And it's worth noting that demons can only be summoned by completing their dice rolls and playing their blood requirements during a ritual. Spells that would simply exhaust an unsummoned demon do not count as summoning it. The main benefit of demons is that they earn you favor that is scored at the end of the game. They can be taken out of play, however, by certain spells. The first player to roll 3 of a kind during a ritual may choose to sacrifice all of their blood to summon the Dark One, but they must have at least 1 blood in order to summon it. And when you summon the Dark One, it does count as the one spell that you may cast during a ritual. If you succeed, pay all of your blood, move the Dark One card over by any summoned demons you have next to your grimoire, and then exhaust it. The Dark One is immune to all spells, and it cannot be removed from play once it's summoned. However, if any subsequent players then roll 3 of a kind and have blood to sacrifice, they may steal the Dark One for themselves. Aside from scoring additional favor, there is one additional perk of having the Dark One in your control. So if you've already summoned and currently have control of the Dark One, and then you roll 3 of a kind again, you may cast an unexhausted spell for free, ignoring the roll numbers and the blood costs, and this counts as the one spell that you may cast during a ritual. So that is an additional perk of having the Dark One in your control. The game ends immediately when the last card is drawn from the deck. The player who draws the last card may choose to immediately add it to their grimoire, or just keep it in their hand, but no further actions can be taken. And then once you're wrapped up, you move on to scoring. Scoring is pretty straightforward. At the end of the game, each player will earn favor as follows. You gain 1 favor for each spell that is currently placed in your grimoire, but you don't count any unsummoned demon spells. You gain any additional favor from your demons that have been successfully summoned and remain in play. And then you subtract 2 favor for each demon summoning spell you have in your grimoire that remains unsummoned by the end of the game. And that's the Blessed Dark. Thanks so much for watching.